Hey everybody, it's Tamara from Moogly, and I'm here with July's Facebook Live, or excuse me, YouTube Live. I'm on YouTube now. I did Facebook earlier, and right now we're going to do YouTube. And speaking of Facebook, I just wanted to say, if you didn't catch the Facebook Live, or if you don't do Facebook, that's fine. I have all of that on mooglyblog.com right now. So if you go to the link in the description, you get a link to, well, you can watch right on the site. You can watch this morning's Facebook Live, and then of course this video will be there, as well as links to all the products and everything I talk about in the Facebook Live this morning and this afternoon's YouTube Live. So you can get all of that right at the link in the description. So I see we've got some people tuning in. I was actually on time today, which is not easy. All of you moms at home know when you've got 3 kids and stuff, summertime can be crazy. So hooray. Hi Chantal, thanks for tuning in from Canada. Hi Tom, oh, love your top, thank you. I was about to say, on my Facebook Live this morning, I talked a little bit about what I did last month and what's coming up in the next month, about my trip to CGOA, and this is the Easy Cold Shoulder V-neck top. There's a tutorial for it here on the YouTube channel, and also the free pattern is on Moogly in 8 sizes, small all the way through 5X. You can definitely check that out. Hi everybody, I'm so glad to see people are tuning in. Thank you so much. It's a great time of day, isn't it? Everything's settling down a little bit. I know I've got my second cup here. We're all working our way through the day. So basically, I just want to say, if you go to the link in the description, you'll get the everything from Facebook. And one thing I wasn't able to show on Facebook because it was still pinned out, I talked a little bit about it, was my next upcoming pattern that's made with Red Heart Italian Story. And I've got it unpinned. I haven't photographed it or anything yet. It is just literally straight off the blocking board. So there's your sneak peek, YouTube. You guys get to see it. It wasn't even available this morning. So this pattern will be going up in August on Moogly, as well as, of course, a bunch of other fun stuff. So that's your little update and sneak peek. Oh, Tammy, you saw the CGA lives. Thank you so much. That was so much fun. It's such a great time. You can see Marley and I did some more lives on Red Heart's Facebook channel too. So if you haven't liked the Red Heart Facebook page, be sure to do that and check out everything Marley and I do for them. It's so much fun. So on to today's topic. I had a reader request topic, and I think it was such a great idea. It was talking about all the different types of ways we can get our yarn and the tools we can use to make them more easier to use, because as we all know, not every yarn comes in the same shape. Cakes have been super popular lately. For those who hadn't had a chance to use cakes before, now we can get cakes everywhere, and that's really fun too. So let me talk a little bit about all the different shapes. Now, there's a lot of overlap in these names, and none of them are like hard and fast rules. These are, a lot of times, it's mostly just what the manufacturer or the person wants to call them. So, you know, if I tell you, like, this is called a skein and this is called something else, you know, don't run out and tell somebody else you're wrong. It's just kind of some general rules, more some guidelines. Like a lot of things in crochet, fortunately or unfortunately, there aren't a lot of hard and fast rule official names on this stuff. So, but these are some general things that you can look for. Okay. Now, first of all, this is not a Red Heart yarn. This is going to be a hand-dyed yarn. That's how you usually see yarns like this that come in these. These are twisted hanks or just hanks. And a lot of hand dyers use these because when you have a skein, the rest of us think of something like this. This has to be done by a big old machine. This is something for those who are dyeing yarn or winding it by hand. So when you have yarn like this, you do have to use tools, typically a swift. There's lots of different kinds of swifts, and I have a separate video on YouTube about how to use a swift and a yarn winder, and I'll get to the yarn winder here in a minute. But you'll need special tools if you have something like this, or you can do it the way, you know, you've probably seen old pictures of like the way grandma did it or whatever, where you lay it over maybe the back of a chair, or you have someone else holding it for you. I think sometimes in old-time movies you can see like there's a, you know, the gentleman in his smoking jacket holding the lady's yarn while she winds it off by hand, and that's another way to do it too. But you don't see these too often unless you're buying usually hand-dyed yarns. So let's get to the ones that we will find in stores, the ones that most of us are working with. Most of those we're going to call skeins, or some people say skeins, but I like to pronounce it skeins. I guess it's personal preference. But the most common one here, I think the one everybody loves the most, is Super Saver, because this is the easiest center pull skein out there. I will say With Love is also very good, but Super Saver, if you look closely here, let me bring it up here right to the camera. You can see how there's sort of layers. You can see there's different layers that have been wound around the skein. Okay? And that's what makes it easy to have the center pull. In fact, one of my favorite things about this one, let me find it here so I can point it out. Right here will actually show you which side to pull from. That's actually included on the label with Super Saver. This is actually Super Saver Chunky, but same difference. in terms of center pull. So this one actually has an end pulling right out for it, and it's just going to pull beautifully. You can just start working right away with these. You don't need any special tools or anything. I do recommend that if you're pulling from one end, that you go to the other end and find the end that's stuck in there. This is the outside end. They just kind of tuck it in so it doesn't all come unwound, and go ahead and pull that out. And then I like to just stick it under the label so it stays out of the way. But that way you don't accidentally start pulling that end on through just from the friction of pulling the other end. So that is a center pull skein. And those are absolutely obviously the easiest ones to use because you don't need any tools. You can just lay it on a table, lay it on the chair next to you, and start working right away. The other kind of skeins, sometimes they're just called balls. Sometimes they're called bullet skeins. I've seen different names for them. This is Red Heart Scrubby Smoothie. And I've got a couple of them here. Here's another one. This is Red Heart Cutie Pie, which I haven't had a chance to use this one yet, you guys. I just pulled it off my shelf, you know, to demonstrate what a skein or a ball was. This is so soft. I gotta come up with something to use this on. It's so incredibly soft. But if you can kind of, I was trying to get a color that would show up good on camera, but you can kind of see it's still wound a lot like the Super Saver was, but there's not the layers. The winding comes all the way to the edge right here. Let me see if I can turn down the lighting just a little bit. I have to kind of reach behind the camera here. If I turn it down a little bit, just for a moment, there we go. Now it's a little bit easier to see. You can see that it's wound around, but it really kind of covers the edge. And you can find the center pull on these sometimes, but it is a lot trickier. And that's when you end up with, I've heard it called yarn barf or a Henkin skein, where you start pulling from the center and blah, it all comes out in the middle, right? It's terrible. It's terrible. So you want to avoid that whenever possible. So for these, like I said, if you're very good at it, some people just have the touch. Some people can reach in there with their fingers and find that end every time. For those of us who don't, there is a tool I like to use personally. And I have one that happens to be made by, I'm dropping stuff all over here. Got so many things to show you guys. This one in particular is made by Yarn Valet, and it's available on Amazon. And I've got this linked out too at the link in the description. And basically, this is another skein of the Scrubby Smoothie I was using. And you can see it started out, you know, in the usual shape. But what you do is you just slide the center of the ball right over this post, and then you can pull from the outside, just like that. And the whole thing spins, which makes it so easy. So this is one of my favorite tools to use with bullet skeins or the skeins that aren't really center pull to make it super easy to use them so I don't have to keep unwinding them. Because I think we've all done that thing, you know, where you have it on the table or the chair next to you and you're pulling and it starts flopping and then it's all over the floor and then the pets get to it and, you know, the kids, whatever. So you want to keep it safe. This I love. This is a great tool. Let's see. So what else? Okay, then there are actual yarn balls. And yes, your yarn had a baby. That's a great one, Nicole. Yes, that yarn bar. If your yarn had a baby, it's like a little mini skein from inside that you didn't have to deal with. That's a great description. I love that. So anyway, yes, balls. Sometimes people will call these kind of skeins, the ones that aren't really made to be center pull. Sometimes these get called balls. And sometimes people are literally referring to a ball that you have wound by hand. And that's totally, you know, that's one way to do it too. And there are a couple of tools that you can do for that too. Obviously, you can just start, you know, with a little ball and wind by hand. But some people like to use something called a Nostipin or a yarn winder. And I have this one by Yarn Valet. And this one is fun because it actually opens up and I can hear something rattling around in there. I think it's a stitch marker. Got just a little, oh, there it goes. There it came out. A little stitch marker I had in there. So that's kind of handy for this one. But it's the kind of the same thing. This is a plastic one. This is a wooden one that was actually sort of a recycled found object that I was sent as part of a Fix Stitches Yarns kit. And basically the method for these is the same for whichever kind of yarn you're using. But with these, let me pull some yarn up here to demo with. What you're going to want to do is you can, if it's available, you stick your yarn right in the top there. And then you can just kind of hold it down and you just literally, doesn't always want to stick in the hole. You can just start winding around. And this is really great if you don't want to wind it all the way by hand by yourself, or if you want to create a skein that you could then put on one of these. Or if you're just getting to the end of a skein, you know, or a ball or whatever you're getting to the end of. A lot of times, even with the center pull balls, as they start to collapse, the yarn can start to get tangled, right? We've all done that. We've gotten to the end of a skein and it can just start getting really tangled up and gross. And you know, you get really frustrated. Nobody wants to spend the last 30 yards of their skein untangling it. So you can hand wind it on something like this and then pull it off and have a nicely organized skein, or a nice little organized ball, I should say, to work from. So that's another option. Let's see, what else is there? Then, of course, I mentioned cakes. Cakes are really popular right now. So many companies have come out with cakes. This one's great. This is Red Heart Rainbow. It's a wrap rainbow, I should say. Gorgeous. I love this yarn. It's so much fun. But most of the cakes, not all, but most of them are have a really easy center pull for you. They should all be center pullable, if that's the color you want to start with. Always something to think about too. But see, this one was sticking out right there. They'd actually tucked the end right in the label, and boom, you can just start working right away from these. So pretty and so easy. If it's not sticking out, then you kind of have to do the feel with your fingers and hope you don't get too much of the yarn barf. But eventually, you know, like I say, you might get a little bit and then you can sort through and find that end and start working. These and the, well, these in particular, these are my favorite. You can buy these already made and just stick them right in a yarn ball. And I have quite a yarn ball collection. This one is by Furls. This is another Furls one. This is the resin one. This is the wooden one. And they've got a really cute ceramic elephant one that I haven't tried yet, but it's adorable. And then this is one of my other favorite ones. This one's handmade by Lickin' Flames, and it's really pretty. So I have a variety of yarn bowls in different sizes, and these are really great for sticking cakes into and keeping them really safe in one place. Or if you've hand wound a ball, you can slip that through there, and it just keeps that ball from literally rolling away across the table, chair, room, wherever you're crocheting. So yarn bowls can be really handy for cakes. Now, if you love cakes, but yarn didn't come in a cake, you can make your own cake. And this is where you would want to use a yarn winder. This is a big boy. This is a big guy. This holds, I think, 10 ounces of yarn. So a great big skein of yarn you can fit on here, although you don't have to have a 10-ounce skein. I will use this if I'm at the end of a skein of yarn or a ball of yarn and I don't want to hand wind it, there's too much there, but it's starting to get tangled and out of control, then I will go ahead and basically this fits on a table and you screw it onto your tabletop. You run the yarn through here and then you twist this and it makes your own cake. Yes, you love your Stanwood. This is the Stanwood. It is hands down my favorite. It's a heavy duty thing. This isn't cheap. I have a link to them on Amazon. I think they run around, well, they go on, you know how it is on Amazon. The prices change. It's around $60 to $80, but I've had this thing for years and it is still going strong. And if you've got, I talked a little bit about hanks. If you've got a hank, this is a handy tool. You'd use this in combination with a Swift. And like I said, if you want to see this in action, I do have a separate video for that. But it can be handy even if you don't buy hanked yarn, just if you really like to keep your yarn really nicely organized. And if you want to cake everything, exactly, Tammy. Yes, if you want to cake everything, then that's the perfect tool. And they do come in different sizes. You don't have to get a great big 10-ounce one. A lot of companies make much smaller ones, and those are handy too. So then, not done yet. There are more shapes. Okay, this one's exciting because this is a new yarn that just came out from Red Heart. Italian Story. And this one is put up, this one's kind of hard. It's so pretty. This one shows off the color. Isn't that gorgeous? You guys, I am in love with this yarn so much. It's fuzzy, it's sparkly, it's gorgeous. It's a little dark since I've turned down the light so we don't get the glare. This one will be a little easier to see. This is a donut ball or a bagel ball. I've heard both of those terms. It's got a little hole right there in the center. So you have a couple different options for these. Some people will put them right on a yarn dispenser, like I showed you earlier, like this here. Oops, I'm all connected now. I've been using my yarn dispenser to dispense yarn from my yarn winder. That's it. Yes. So you could put this right on here and try and pull it off this way. That's one option. Some people just like to go ahead and put these in a yarn bowl and kind of gently let them flop around. But the more that's going on with these, then the more likely you are to want to go ahead and cake it up, or maybe even just hand wind it into a ball. You want to be a little gentler. Usually yarns like this are sort of precious. They're typically more upscale, have a little more luxury fiber. The Luce here, let's see, this one has mohair. It's nylon, acrylic, mohair, and polyester. So a lot of times these donut balls or bagel balls are just sort of really precious delightful yarns that you want to take a little extra care with. So hand winding them into a ball before you begin can be really helpful, especially if you think they might stick to each other really well. With these, I would definitely not recommend using any sort of center pull, especially if it's got any sort of halo or fuzz like this, because then it'll rub against itself as you pull out, and it creates a lot of friction, and that can fuzz up your yarn before you've even finished your project, and who wants that? So with donuts, usually a sign that they could use a little extra care. And then one other kind, I don't have a cone for you. There's relatively few yarns. Usually when you get yarn on a cone, you're getting in quantity. Like some people order cones of yarn to actually dye themselves. But sort of the mini version of a cone would be a hardcore ball or something like this. This one's Red Heart nylon crochet thread. And a lot of the crochet threads, like Aunt Lydia's, in fact, will have a cardboard, sort of that tube in the middle, kind of like toilet paper or paper towels. Same thing. This one happens to be plastic, but basically it's just you've got that hard tube in the center, and you just go ahead and pull right from the outside. Again, do not try and find anything on the inside on these. This is definitely an outside pull. So those are just some of the tools. Let me see here and make sure I got through everything I wanted to mention on those. But yeah, basically you just want to take a close look at the yarn that you want to use. This one is Red Heart with Love. I just grabbed this one. It doesn't have the same indication on the label that Super Saver does, but 9 times out of 10, when I pull it off the shelf at the store, whatever, here's the end on the outside, and look at that right there. That's the end from the inside. So it doesn't have quite the same labeling as the Super Saver, but if we look again, well, this is red. Red's always hard to see on camera. Let me grab a different color here. Green usually shows up pretty well. There we go. You can see again, it's not as distinct as the Super Saver, but we can kind of see how it's layered again. So that's the kind that's really easy to center pull. So you can use, obviously, non-center pull skeins of yarn. I do all the time. They just take a little more forethought. Like I said, the Scrubby Smoothie and the Red Heart Cutie Pie can be pulled from the center, and personally, I just prefer to pull from the outside because then I don't have to spend time looking for that end, untangling the bit that all came out of the middle, I can just pop it on something like this, or, if I'm not feeling it, I can just drop it in a bag or a bucket next to me, pull from the outside so I can kind of hop around in love, hop around inside in the bucket. So I can just always pull up what I need. And so yeah, lots of different options. And those are some of the tools I use. We talked about, let's see, just to clear up all the names. This would be like a yarn dispenser. This one's by Yarn Ballet. There's a few different brands of these out there. Also, sometimes for these, people use paper towel holders, like actual paper towel holders. You can go out and use those too. Let's see, what else? Where'd they go? The Nasta pins. Yes, the yarn winders and Nasta pins. I don't know where the other one went, but that's basically just a stick. So you could use a pretty stick to help wind it around. And there are videos, there's special ways to wind these if you want to, but basically you're just making your own ball of yarn. Just a handy tool there. And then the other big tool would be this big guy here, the yarn winder. And then, of course, we've got yarn bowls. Always love to collect yarn bowls. Those are a lot of fun too. So just think about what the shape of the yarn that you want to use. And if you're not sure if it's center pull or not, look for those layers. Let me pull up that Super Saver Chunky again. This one is really easy to see. You can see how there's layers there and a really obvious one coming out from the center. These are going to be golden. The ones where it's a little more folded over on the ends and it's wound around to the outside, those aren't made to be center pulled, but they can be if you want to put forth the effort. So that's it. Take a look at your yarn. Thank you to Red Heart Yarns for sponsoring this. I saw somebody ask right there as I was finishing up, did I make this top? Yes, it's the Easy Cold-Shouldered V-neck top. Long name, had to think about the order there, but it's available on mooglyblog.com in 8 sizes, and I've got a link to that at the link in the description as well. So once again, go to the link in the description and you get links to all these yarns that I've talked about, all these tools that I've talked about, and the top that I'm wearing. So I hope you'll check it out. And there you can also see the Facebook Live I did this morning, which had some sneak peeks. Ooh. Some different sneak peeks and things. So you can check all that out right there. And I'll be back next month with another YouTube Live. So if you've got any great ideas, a topic that you want to hear about, this topic and the last one were both reader requests. So if you have something that you want to learn about, that you think I can teach you, please do let me know. Leave your comments, and I would love to read them. Thank you so much for watching. See you later.